So on today's episode of Prime People, we are interviewing Judi Fox. She is an expert on all things LinkedIn, hit over 2 million views in 2018. And fun fact, LinkedIn is one of the best places to get organic reach on social. People are always chasing YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, but those platforms require you to pay to play, and it just doesn't feel like you're growing. I can tell you from personal experience, some of the tips I learned in these episodes have helped us and our team grow dramatically in the past couple weeks. So I had to rush this one out right before the holidays so you can get an understanding of some tactile things that you can do to really grow your reach. And it may be counterintuitive than what you might think. So one of my favorite episodes to date, I always say that because we have some of the best guests on Prime People. My network is your network, and the reason that we do this is I really want to put these people on our platform and give them their shine because they are constantly sharpening their swords. And if you get a community of people around you, you can all level up by having experts share those strategies that you don't need to go 100% deep into. But if you can get 2 or 3 things that help you grow your business, why wouldn't you take the time to do that? If you want direct access to these live events before they're posted online, just hit up our community texting platform, text events to 226-799-9434, or you can just text hi. You'll actually get me directly. That is where we put all of our premium content and all of our invites. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Prime People podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention we have some of the best guests on the planet. All right, we are live on Facebook, so this is super, super exciting. Judi Fox's dog's barking in the background. So I don't think she has a fox. I think she has an actual dog. So while she's doing that, I'll give you a little bit of an insight into what we're getting into today. I'm a little bit selfish today because I'm making a big push on LinkedIn. I know it's a platform that a lot of the top people, she looks like a fox. A lot of the top people in the industry know is an open green space. And, people that have been working in it for a long time understand the power of it. People that don't just feel like it's another social network, and it's, overwhelming to some people that, oh my gosh, like I have a hard time posting on Instagram. Now I got to get into LinkedIn, but it doesn't have to be a scary thing. I think people can look at these platforms as communication tools, pick the ones that fit their personalities. And quite frankly, LinkedIn has done a lot of things over the last couple of years to become that next generation platform. So they're doing things behind the scenes. They're doing things with the algorithm, and it's got purchased by another company, which I'll let Judi Fox get into. But I guess before we get into that, everybody get your pens and papers ready. Judi's going to give us a tip on how to share your LinkedIn profiles within this group so that we can follow each other. Judi, the floor is yours.
Oh, wow. So I think it'd be great if we all made sure we were connected to each other. And we all know our @ symbol for Instagram, or our user handle for Instagram. And Renee is off to the races sharing her LinkedIn profile. So yeah, and Spencer is too. So basically you are going to, it always begins with you guys all know how to do it. Why do I have to explain? And you all have customized, am I allowed to put Spencer in the hot seat? He has not customized his URL. I will show you that. How about that? So this is, can I share my screen? Oh, you have to give me permission to share my screen.
Okay. I got to see how to actually do that. How do I
get
permission? Pin video, choose to allow to multi-pin, make co-host. So I'm assuming this is going to allow you to do that. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Let's share my screen. And thank you. Hopefully Spencer's okay with being in the hot seat for a minute. Oh, and you get to see a crazy desktop there. And LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn. So up here on your personal profile, you get to edit your public profile and URL. So if you don't have your public profile everywhere, sometimes I tell people, if you've already put your links everywhere on the internet, on your website, maybe pause and don't update your public profile URL. But you do get a chance, if you click on that link in the upper right, to personalize your URL. So just like you get to personalize your handle on every other channel, I created mine back in 2008, 2009. So it is what it is. I'm just going to leave it, but it's Judi Fox. And it just ended up being my handle for LinkedIn. So I just know that sometimes when I see the numbers, and again, like I said, Steve got in the hot seat because his URL was 8092BZ5102030. I'm kidding, but LinkedIn adds just random number generators after your name, which makes your URL super long. So this is where your URL is.
That's awesome. And why would that be important? Why would somebody want to do that?
So as we get traction, number one that I have noticed, and again, you mentioned Microsoft bought LinkedIn. So one of the number one things that I have noticed is Google yourself. I have seen over and over how LinkedIn is the first result when you Google your name. I mean, I think for me, it's my website and then it's Google, or then it's not Google, it's LinkedIn. So actually spend a little bit of time, Google your name. Should I Google your name, Justin? It's gonna be like in the hot seat. I'm putting you all in the hot seat. I've already searched for you and gone down the rabbit hole of who is Justin, but all right. Instagram came up first, but LinkedIn is in the running.
Interesting.
So obviously I don't control exactly what they bring up. I have clicked on your Instagram though. So I'm curious if Google decided I'd already gone over to your Instagram. So
probably new, right? Because if you look, Facebook, you had clicked on that. LinkedIn's the first one that wasn't clicked on, right? So
yeah,
probably the first one that would have popped
but
up.
look how powerful it is. Look how interesting it is that our social channels show up higher than even our websites now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing this for. Like, truthfully, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, right? Because they were asking, well, why do you do the webinars and why do you do the podcast and everything else? And I said, I do it on my own anyways. Like, I would reach out to Judi and I would do this for 45 minutes. But, what we're talking about here translates to all aspects of business and helps me in the real estate world for sure, helps me from a personal branding perspective. But if there's a coffee roaster watching this right now, or a guy that does insurance or a builder, all of these concepts matter because the consumers are going digital to find their community and find their tribe. And how you manage the platform is integral. I don't even want to waste any time because I know your time is limited. Why do you think LinkedIn matters? Why do you think we're having this conversation today versus people that maybe have a preconceived notion of what LinkedIn is?
So LinkedIn was originally created or has the mindset of it's professional and it is for my resume or job searching, or it's for two sides of the job searching. Either I'm looking for business opportunities, so sales, business development, or the job searching mindset of I need a company job. So I feel like both of those are still searching though. They're looking out, they're finding opportunities, and they're out there. So I think thinking like that has made it so people don't quite know how to navigate the platform and they get a little frozen. It's like they go over from, okay, I know how to be myself on Instagram. I know how to be myself on Facebook. Well, I guess I got to plod all over to LinkedIn and be boring and professional, and it just freezes people. And so I try to tell people to shift from thinking about LinkedIn as professional to LinkedIn is leadership. We're here. So even leaning into the mindset of the career path and thinking, oh, well, it's for job seekers. We're here for your entire career. So many people think of YouTube as a channel or how I'm going to curate my Instagram and all my grid and what I look like. And even Facebook, that friends and family feel. Well, we're here on LinkedIn in a mindset of following you as a human being throughout your entire career. So many people go, well, I talk about this. I'm here for it. I'm here for you, your new job, your next position, your next title, your advancement, your business opportunities. You now go out into business on your own. We follow that journey more than any other channel out there. We stick with it versus other people thinking I have to go and only talk about this for the rest of my life on these other channels. That's that feeling when I look at YouTube, like you have a channel and that's your channel. And that's just not how it is on LinkedIn. We are more fluid and able to follow your career. And it's about leadership.
I think that's a great breakdown because I think people, like, my thoughts on LinkedIn a couple of years ago were it was just a very convoluted platform, right? What I find would happen was I would go on LinkedIn and a connection would want to add me, I'd look at the guy and be like, well, you're in my area. Sure, I'll add it. And then automatically I get 57 autoresponder messages from him and I remove the connection. And I just feel like it was like a soulless platform when it really wasn't. It was more how I was using it. Right. So we got connected through a mutual friend, Chelsea Pites, and we started talking. And I remember we had a chat like a couple months ago just about the dynamics of the industry and LinkedIn and what you're doing. I kind of want to dive into the progression of LinkedIn from the early years where you started working in it till now, and then really get into the nuts and bolts. But before we do that, so let's talk about your origin story. So okay. I know 2018, you hit 2 million views on LinkedIn, but I know it goes way back, right? Like 2008-ish was when you kind of got to LinkedIn. So maybe like, where did you grow up? How did you end up on LinkedIn? And like, where are you today with it?
So you are correct. I started my career in 1999. I graduated college as a chemical engineer. And back then in my eye line was my dad is an engineer. My sister was an engineer. My dad took me to work, which by the way, if you ever can take your children to work, include them in what you do and raise them to see what you do, because that really did impact me and actually got to meet somebody who I ended up working with over 15 years later. I met somebody when I was 17 years old that actually impacted my career to the point that I ended up working directly with her on a project 15 years later. So that's really powerful. But basically, I became an engineer because that's all I saw. That's all I knew. And back then, there was no internet for me to look up a job in 1994 when I first went to college. So that was it. I knew what I knew back then. Now that I fast forward and think about why chemical engineering makes sense for what I do now, I like breaking things down into its micro parts. And also engineering teaches you a lot about solving problems and standard operating procedures, how to move through things and reverse engineer things. So that's kind of a bit of my origin story as far as my career. And then the next part, when I was in my career, I was tapped into a mentorship program to go into the C-suite. So I was presenting to the board of directors pretty early on in my career and was given a lot of training. And within that, I always thought, okay, I'm going to be with this company. And I saw LinkedIn forming because again, it was early 2000s. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I would join that. I'm going to be with this company for the rest of my life. And then 2008, 2009, economic crisis hit. And actually, that's when I realized I don't want to ever get caught off guard with my career ever again. And the best way to do that is to be networked, to know people to reach out to. The moment whatever hits the fan, you have some people to reach out to, not only to have colleagues that you can talk to and be a grounding space for you to network with and say, here's what's happening at work. Here's what I'm facing. Here's difficult challenges. It's not a question of if we're going to have difficult challenges, we're going to have difficult challenges at work. We're human beings. And the next thing is networking and opportunities. We really find out what is out there by being networked with other people. So again, 2008, 2009, I have my dog barking again. Can you hear him? Is he pretty loud?
It is not a little bit. Not
okay. Seriously, do you need to join this conversation?
Yeah. Let's go back to that for a second, right? Like you touched on something that I do think about quite often. There's a quote that I think about, and it's, you hate me, I love you, I love you, and I don't burn bridges because there's going to be 1,000 ways to get where I have to go because I never burn a bridge. But I think about it from an operational standpoint where, when I'm looking at new employees that want to join Prime or people contact me, usually the ones that I've established relationships with or I've seen working over the past couple of years, what they're up to, their drive, what they're doing are way quicker on my radar than somebody who just calls me cold with a sense of entitlement saying, well, I have these qualifications, so you should hire me. Like literally those phone conversations end about that quickly. But if it's somebody that I've seen that I can go back and I can look at the last year and yeah, maybe they jumped from job to job, but I could see the consistency in their workflow and their personality and realize that, yeah, they're actually a fit for us. I'll actually actively go out and get those people and bring them into the fold. It's what you said, like even during a financial crisis, there's always a silver lining. And, sometimes some doors get closed on you so that you can walk through those other doors. So you tangibly found a job on LinkedIn back then, but then you also discovered a passion for LinkedIn at the same time. Was that how that happened?
So yeah, let me just share my screen because I kind of tried to lay out visually my my career journey. That's a better way of putting it. So if I can get to that slide, it's kind of a big summary here, but LinkedIn allowed me to move from being a chemical engineer, working for major brands like United States Gypsum and Marathon. I got my master's degree in sustainability and environmental management. And then, like I said, in 2008, 2009, that's when I joined LinkedIn and I was able to network to my next job instead of applying. And especially during an economic crisis, the amount of applications you're going to receive, just like you said, they're cold. There is no relationship, no ability to connect. Instead of doing that, I did a strategy of 2 emails per day that were very customized. For the most part, I had a general language I wanted to get out, but they were customized. I said, "Hey, Rob, what's happening? I'm checking in. I have a was it called at the time? I took a leave of absence. That's how they were able to say pause my income, pause my job, and maybe if the crisis resolved, which it was not going to resolve that fast, we can bring you back in, but it didn't resolve obviously as quickly and I needed to look for another job. So I had a challenge to myself to do 2 of those per day, 2 emails per day. And through that, I generated over 10 interviews in less than a couple months
Wow.
because I was not waiting for a job listing somewhere. I was in front of them before they knew they finally needed to look to see that they had a job opening,
Mhm.
because that's how it works. If you're top of mind before they even need you, then it's perfect. That's the same way we want to be in our businesses too. Be visible and top of mind. So that way, when they need you, it's easy to reach out. So I did, my side hustle line is down at the bottom. I started doing things online in the early 2000s. I built a website for the National Association of Environmental Managers. I just loved um, writing blog posts. I put out a YouTube video that's actually embarrassingly me in my pajamas, and I am at, I think,
Yeah.
20,000 views of that video. So super embarrassing, but whatever.
What was that video about? What were you doing?
But even in 2013, I started saying, I had so many people starting on LinkedIn coming into my DMs saying, wow, how did you get a job so fast in 2010? I started making public posts that were really bad, like really horribly written, just like, hey, everybody, I got a new job. Thanks for everyone that I networked with that helped me get this job. Because I don't believe you can always detail out which is the dot that made the final connection to you, the tipping point of you getting that job. It's a collection of all the conversations you're having. The conversation we're having right now is going to ripple effect into, I don't know how many future conversations, or also the ability to level up what I say about myself. There's so many micro moments that we never know how it's going to play out. So it plays out to being able to network to build my own 6-figure environmental consulting and resume remodeling business, which I launched in 2011, 2012. I then closed clients like Tesla, Rolls-Royce. I worked with Dominion Energy. And then I finally, after so many people said, how are you running your business, getting work? And it was all through LinkedIn, all of it. My entire business ran through LinkedIn. So
So
I
what
turned
type of
it
things
into
were you
LinkedIn Business Accelerator.
what type of things were you doing for the Rolls Royces and the Teslas of the world? Like, were you going in and showing them how to operate on these platforms? Were you doing separate consulting? Like, what
Oh,
did that?
that was separate consulting. So I was doing business sustainability and environmental. So I wrote and was, Ingersoll Rand, for example, if you look at their 2011, I think, sustainability report, I wrote that. I was interviewing the employees. I was compiling all of that data. I worked with Scott's Miracle Grow on a huge rollout for their environmental sustainability program. So yeah, I'm behind the scenes. I helped move a smelter in Tesla and getting all the permits and negotiating. It's all relationships. Like, how do you move a smelter from one location to the other? And there's just processes and steps and permits and approvals. And that's what Tesla and I would do for companies.
Fascinating. Where are you based out of? Because if you're writing stuff for Lake Michigan, I'm just not, is that in your backyard? Are you located in Michigan?
No.
Okay,
I was literally during this period of time, I literally lived international. I just kept my address as Virginia, and I was working for companies in California, Michigan, Virginia, everywhere. And it was all done remotely or a digital nomad, I guess you could call me. I was location independent before it became popular to be location independent. And at one point, I lived for an entire year in this whole thing in Germany. So ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
there you go. Close. That's the only word that I know.
Yeah. So
Imagine
it didn't matter to them if I was working at 10 p.m. at night, whatever time, it didn't matter. I didn't let them know. It was me just controlling and saying, you know what, this is my business. Yes, I can do that call at 2 p.m. I lived in your time zone. If it's your time zone, I operated in your time zone.
as long as the work gets done, right? Like you'd frame your own narrative and you don't feel like you have to over explain it because there's really nothing to explain. The people that are operating at this level, I know their types and they don't really have time to waste. They just want a job done. They want it done quickly. They don't really care about the intricacies of it. But
Yeah.
let's literally jump right into the LinkedIn talk, the tangible, how to actually use it and how to not use it. So first of all, how should I use LinkedIn? Like high level, I know you gave us a breakdown of it's the narrative of my journey, but I'm Justin Konikow. I'm logging into LinkedIn today. What do I do? Am I just posting thoughts? Am I engaging with the community? What are some best practices?
I love that. And I want to do one more thing to convince you that you want to be on LinkedIn, but we don't realize the numbers are in our favor. We hear people like Gary Vaynerchuk. I listen to his talks. He always has some golden nuggets in there, but there really is 1% active accounts on LinkedIn posting. That's it. 1%. It could be bumped up to 2% by now, but it is so few active accounts and they get to share a huge amount of visibility. 9 billion views are happening per week to only 1%. So 1% of the active accounts is about 2 to 3 million accounts are sharing 9 billion views.
Does that count the guy that's sending me the autoresponder that I just cannot stand every time?
No, I'm talking about people who are like myself, making a video, getting over 3,000 likes, 564 comments. This was me having a pretty strong opinion saying, if you wouldn't say it in a business meeting with a new connection, then don't say it in the comments on LinkedIn. Of course, that is very relevant, but as a business owner, you can talk about this. I could be running my environmental consulting business, gain traction as long as my profile is built to sell me. So the awareness model of we know you exist, that know, like, and trust factor, we have to check out your profile. That is my ultimate goal, is to constantly get a visibility so people literally check out my, wherever the little LinkedIn symbol is, my LinkedIn profile. That is step number one, hands down. It is also a really powerful step for why people reply to you in the DMs. So if you're sitting there, anyone watching right now, you want to get people to reply to you in the DMs. That seems to be a big pain point. Obviously, you've got the autoresponders. They want you to reply, right? They're like, please reply. If you can be visible publicly on the platform, the human mind assumes the way you do one thing is the way you're going to do everything. So if you talk nicely to the people in the public comments, we assume you're going to be a regular, normal human being in the DMs privately, one-on-one. We are way more likely to trust you and more likely to reply. I mean, I don't have a statistic, but let's just throw out a number. 80% more likely to reply. I mean, it's so easy for me or for anyone that I get visibility for to get people to reply to them because we see you publicly having conversations. We know you're a normal human being. I mean, that's kind of the baseline we're working with here, but we need to know we're going to have a safe conversation, a good conversation, one that's not going to waste our time.
So step one is engaging in conversations first before you're even saying anything, right? Like you're talking, going into other people's content and being a community member before just walking into the cafeteria and screaming out, I have a house for sale, and walking out, right?
That is exactly what it looks like. If we did in real life, and I love those spoof videos where they take what happens online and they try to play it out in real life, like the real life conference call. So hilarious. I could watch those all day long. But basically you just played it out in real life, the equivalent of someone jumping into your direct messages And it's like they're getting a megaphone and they're like, hi, get on a quick call with me. They're just shouting out into like an empty space of people like, we were already talking over here. Like, why are you interrupting us?
It goes
Like,
beyond that. It actually turns people off. Like I'll see stuff like that, and instantly, like before you even did anything, you ask me for something and I don't even know you. Like I get it. I understand everybody wants to grow their business and I can respect that grind and that hustle. But to me, it just speaks to your character, right? Versus entering a conversation objectively. And even if you don't agree with me, having a nice conversation and a civil discourse is everything. There's been a really bad trend I've noticed on LinkedIn and Chelsea's the one that brought it up, where people are saying things on LinkedIn that was just never there before, right? And they feel like, I mean, they can go in with negativity and pretty nasty things on a platform that, I mean, it's their job, it's their CV. It blows my mind. Like I understand YouTube, I understand TikTok and the other platforms, but are you surprised that this is now a thing on LinkedIn?
I mean, I think our general discourse is tense right now in general.
Yeah, I'm in Canada, so we're not as tense. You can come over here if you want.
I need to get a Canadian flag behind me. I haven't lived in Canada, but I did work on a huge project for the 2010 Olympics, actually, which was an engineering project, which is really exciting, expanding one of the roads there. So that was really fun. So can I get adopted like slightly? I'm just kidding.
Walk over the border. There's somewhere along like the Midwest, like southern border where there's nothing. There's like a shed with one guy sitting in it. So
Nice. The point is that we are probably seeing a little bit more activity than we normally have, but I coach and teach people how to not scroll the news feed so that you don't have to run through it, you don't have to come across it. You're intentional about your time on LinkedIn, and honestly, you can use this on every platform, but I actually create curated lists of who I'm maybe going after, just like you might want to pitch PR. Say, for example, you're dying to get featured in Forbes. Well, then you would reverse engineer that. You would say, well, who writes for Forbes that I already know? Who already creates roundup lists of quotes from businesses in my current industry? Look up what articles are currently being written about people that I look like, that I am similar to, and then find those authors, those journalists, those PR professionals and connections who got featured, also the people who got featured, and then go engage on their content, go connect with them, go be in their circles. It's like the equivalent you said, instead of walking in with the megaphone in the cafeteria, you're walking in and you're just sitting down at one of their tables and you are complimenting and saying, that was a great article. Here's what I liked out of XYZ. And that journalist is going to be like, oh, thank you. Like, wait, who is this person? And then you can, when you send a pitch, a PR pitch, that PR pitch will land much stronger because they already recognize your name and they already have seen you compliment their work. That's going to land a lot stronger. You're not going to win every single pitch, but you're going to definitely land a lot more.
And if we're talking PR and news, I remember early on when I started kind of having conversations with people in my community that now ask me for information and stuff relating to the real estate market. First one I did was me going to them. And if we're going to go back to the cafeteria, I brought him lunch. So I basically gave him a story that wasn't broke yet because we did the deal. And I was like, I asked the owner, I said, do you want some press for this? He said, yeah. So I contacted a reporter and I said, hey, this just happened. This means 500 jobs for this area. Nobody really knows about it yet. Here's a feature we did on them. And like, I didn't ask him for anything. I didn't even probably for a year or two after, there was no reciprocation, but it was just building the community, right? I knew that that's valuable to him. So like reverse engineering it, going to people with value is more important than, just going with something that you're selling and expecting a response, which is really tough to do, right?
Yeah. I love that we're going to hopefully have the cafeteria throughout this whole presentation or talk.
Yeah.
I see some questions in the chat. It's hard for me to read and talk. So maybe if there is something in there.
I'll ask you the question. So
you did talk about, and I think one of these things is going to get answered if I go through some of my slides, but one thing I want, if I can just get out of okay, fine. It's like just frozen or something. Doesn't want to move. It just wants to stay on my face right there. Okay, well, that's fun. Oh, there you go. People are going to purchase. But if I can oh, there it is. Okay. So I want to point out D because people say in the comments, we're saying, well, how am I going to get this visibility for my business? And I don't know why it's Here's the story. So basically, I'm coaching Dee on how to show up as a leader in the comments. This is extremely powerful because, like I said, you're out and engage with people. You want to get their attention. Well, go give them attention. Go give what you want to get back from them. And so Arianna Huffington gave her attention, which Arianna Huffington has almost 10 million followers on LinkedIn. So if you can get the attention of Arianna Huffington or her team, I don't care if it's directly Arianna Huffington, but her team is watching out for great comments. Great comments can turn into great articles. So then she got featured, literally, like I said, she's 9.5 million. I'm sure she's at 10 million now. So then she literally posted about Dee. I mean, this was 2 hours into the post. I should go check it out to see what kind of traction it got. But I know that obviously she celebrated me in the comments, which I'm very grateful for. But then she reached over 1 million viewers. Again, it's all these, it was actually 1 million views in 6 weeks on her masterclass series. So we look at the dots and we can see backwards where we say to ourselves, oh, that's how it all came together. But visibility at a core level will serve your business and attract the ability to get more visibility. So when people say, well, how do I generate leads and do all of this? At the core level, I tell people to start with commenting. Commenting is such an undervalued way to generate this kind of traction, to the point that Dee was like, I'm not even barely posting on LinkedIn. I'm commenting. It's just mind blowing. So
we're going to backtrack a second and stick on this topic. You had said, so you log in, you don't even scroll your feed. And I think that's people's natural inclination is, okay, I'm going to do some work on LinkedIn. I'm just going to scroll through the feed, comment. So let's switch gears. Train me to do what you do versus what I do. How would I look at engaging on a platform or starting to create a list like that when the feed is what I know, right?
Right. So I actually, and I'll put you on I call people my favorites. I don't like calling people my prospects, my leads, my clients. I just like calling them my favorites because I'm like, I want to work with my favorite people. I want to engage with my favorite people. So I started calling it my favorites list. So let me share what it looks like, or at least show you if I can get out of this slide deck again. For some reason, my computer is like, oh, I don't want to work today. It's Thursday.
Yeah. Your dog's got it.
Eventually it'll stop presenting at some point. Well, that's good. Stop share. Let's see if I can get out of it before I start sharing. There. Okay, now we're back. I can share my screen to show how I'm going to add Justin to my favorites list. So Justin, there you are. Giving you honest real estate advice. I hope it's not the opposite of honest. So, so putting your profile in the hot seat, I can do in a little bit. But first, like we just said, we want to focus in on how do I not scroll the news feed? So what I did was I was on your main profile here. Yeah. I scrolled down and clicked to your activity and I said, see all.
Sure.
And then I go to here and I click on your posts. So I want to see all of your posts. So 15 hours ago, you posted this. I grabbed this address.
Sorry, you grabbed the URL.
Yeah. So if I go to my Google Slides, I wonder if I can show, no, it's my Google Sheets.
Yeah. Okay. So you're grabbing the actual URL.
Yeah. So I have to see if I can, what this is going to open up on. So
people watching this right now and the people that are going to be watching the replay to actually get into the nuts and bolts. I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where is my spreadsheet. This one isn't copy of, So if I was going to scroll down, and here's just an example, I just use this as an example, this is not necessarily what I do, but I want to show you that if I wanted to fill this out, I can then click on all of these LinkedIn editors and some LinkedIn employees that I follow. Now, is my list exhaustive? No, because I have a specific goal in mind, and there's certain people that I know that I want to engage with in this space. And being involved and being visible to LinkedIn editors is almost the same as getting the attention of a journalist or a PR. This is how I've gotten a lot of visibility for some of the clients. So you go over here, I want to open all my links, and it's just going to open all of their profiles. And the top thing is going to be obviously their profiles, but wait, I wanted to go, sometimes I can go directly to their last post. I don't know why it didn't do
By
that.
going to my post and pulling that URL, it brings you to my feed. So you see the most recent conversations I had.
Yes.
You're taking something that takes 20 clicks and then you're turning it into something that takes like 1 or 2 clicks, right?
Yeah. So I'm directly linking. That just happened to open up all their profiles, but I actually set it up so that if I do click on one of those columns, it will open up their last post. So that was a little aggressive to open up all their profiles. I don't know. I don't think I've ever shown that publicly.
No, it's all good. I absolutely love it. Like, again, this is why we do these series, right? I love asking these questions, and I would ask you this on a one-on-one basis because so it's stuff you learn trial by fire, right? Like it probably wasn't like that in the beginning, but that little hack right there, you talk about ripple effect. You may have just changed somebody's life by showing them a little bit.
Yeah, because wouldn't it be more powerful if you made a list of all of your employees and your clients? Say you made a list of all your clients, and you want to make sure they know you are. It's like the equivalent of saying, "Hey, I'm just checking in," or "I'm supporting what you're up to." And if you look like you're supporting your clients, that will have a bigger ripple effect into what people think, how they can refer you, how they think of you, how they can talk about you. Because even if you're the only like and comment, I'm sure you know what it feels like to post something on LinkedIn and wish somebody would like and comment. And I think we take for granted how much that is impacting them by you liking and commenting. So
taking time. It really doesn't take much to especially stand out. I didn't know that stat that only 1% of the users are there and there's 9 billion eyeballs on it. And people have asked for years the different ways that we've found success. A lot of times it's just platforms that nobody's paying attention to. I'm like, just go where there's no noise. Everybody's on Instagram right now. It's so noisy. I post less now than I did a year ago, and I'm getting more traction because it just stands out when I do something that's maybe a little bit better. But I'm spending literally, I have a time block in my calendar that's LinkedIn. And I'm not doing it the right way because I'm just going into my feed and I'm letting it kind of curate it. And it's so convoluted. Like I've had my LinkedIn for a long time. I have a lot of connections, and it's not stuff that's pertinent to where my life is going now. So can you dissect my profile and maybe criticize it? I'm not sensitive. You can say whatever you want.
Woo, hot seat.
Just give me your opinion.
So yes, at the very top, I love the for sale sign energy, but that still doesn't tell me who you are, what you do, what you sell, any call to action, any social proof. There's a lot missing that could really, really sell you from the top. So some of the profiles that I've worked on have been, let's see how the best way to open up some profiles I've worked on in the real estate space. So Barry Wolf has a really good one that I helped him with.
Got a Wolf Fox connection there or something.
I know, that is kind of fun. But see, if I put like a side by side, we immediately see that he's growing a personal hashtag, which that is hands down powerful to grow a personal hashtag on LinkedIn. The next thing is you see his website. You obviously get this picture. A lot of people have city pictures behind their profiles, or like you have a picture of you in action. And I'm saying that is good. That's step number 1. But can you imagine also down here, message me or some type of call to action, your email, he has his phone number. There's just something we need to, because human beings take action when they're told to take action. Like,
take out my note.
We just do what we're told. But sometimes we need advice. We need to know, how do you want people to message you? I worked on Benton Cranes. So this was something we added. He did not have this, but he obviously, with being the Harmon brothers, he literally gets a crap ton of eyeballs. I mean, how many billions of views does the Squatty Potty ad have? And chat books, if you know of those brands, that's his company getting the visibility on those brands. And so he hired me for LinkedIn because and it's so funny how we were like, we need to do something where we know he's the CEO and he's giving us directions for what he wants you to do. So if somebody, an admin person, he can get a DM, a message, and it says, I do want to apply. he already has a yes permission energy to immediately send them the application. And the application is a process that's already built through his website. So yes, it's not as automated. We've gone back and forth over what would be better, but for the most part, he gets great conversations now in his DMs, unlike before.
Very interesting.
So that's step number one. I think, let's see, so I had Barry up. If we go down here, we have giving you honest real estate advice. If I go back to any of my clients, you're going to see a pattern. We pack it with keywords.
Yeah.
This is the number one, this giving you honest real estate advice is the number one spot for keywords. If you want to be found in search, if you want to increase any visibility on LinkedIn, this is the keyword spot right here and right here. This line right here, Senior Managing Director of Investments. He added commercial real estate because of me, because I said you have to get a keyword into that line. So even if you have a business title, founder and CEO, that's not enough. So same thing I did with PJ. We just packed it with keywords. It does feel awkward at first because he's the founder of Uscreen, but we wanted to pack it with keywords. I know it's not a real estate example, but it's really relevant.
Right? Because there's people on this call that aren't on the real estate side of things.
Okay. The point is, you notice a pattern. He used to have founder and president. That's nice. But what do? You're the world's leading video monetization. So now he's going to get found for video monetization. He's going to get found for more things. And he explained himself, which is going to go further in Google search. So that's what we do there. The next area is your real estate. I'm always about above the fold and the top, because if we can't convert somebody and convince them we know what we're doing, then they're not going to go any further. So that's why I make sure this entire, like this one chunk right here should be filled in correctly. So
mine's super light. When I look at it, it actually doesn't necessarily cover my territory because my territory is a lot bigger than what I just have there. And yeah, it just needs to be cleaned up and a little bit more concise so people aren't digging for information, right?
Yes. So here has another one I worked on, which is, it's so powerful. Immediately when you see this, if I showed you the before and the after, but basically the before was just a simple picture of the landscape, a woman sitting there looking off into the distance, loving to travel. But this way, we immediately know she's legit. She's been featured in a lot of places. She actually just spoke at the American Rheumatology. I don't even know fancy words, big words. The point is, she is a public speaker. She's so incredibly like knowledgeable in a very high-end luxury travel space and for hotels and for connections. And like, I don't even know it. She's just incredible as a person. So when you work with somebody like this, you have to translate that in an image very fast. So the same thing you would think about on your website, referrals, testimonials, recommendations, what people think of you, your logo, your vibe, how you make people feel, and this powerful social proof, the as seen in kind of energy, featured energy. That's so powerful, all of that.
And search is a big function too. We'll get off the profile now just because I know we spent an entire episode on this, but people don't realize everything is searchable, right? Google searchable, YouTube searchable, Facebook, LinkedIn, all these profiles, but knowing where to put those, I thank you for that, because the keywords in the title in that section, now my brain is thinking on how I do my YouTube videos, for example. I'll apply those same principles to my LinkedIn profile from a professional presentation standpoint. So all of you there, I think there's a ton of value in kind of that whole conversation. I do want to jump in really quick to some of the questions if you do have some time.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So first I'm going to allow Martin Smith to talk. Martin, if you can jump in, you're welcome to have a conversation and ask Judi.
Hi, Martin.
Give him one more second here. And I think I can pull his question out. So here, I will jump right into his question.
Okay.
It said, can you do searches on LinkedIn for topics, like a general search on budget or, you know, productivity? Like, is that a function of LinkedIn as well, over and beyond people searching?
Yes. So I'm going to just open this up and search budget. So you wanted budget. Granted, it's not going to be what I mean, what you see normally at first. So normally when you do budget, you just see people's profiles. Just if you just plain old go in the search, and that's what you do. So instead you can click on something called content, and you can actually see content where it's going to pull out keywords of people talking about budget. So that could either be in somebody's hashtag, it could just be in the phrase. This starts to get you at least a little bit closer to people having conversations about budget. You can do hashtag budget. I don't know what was the other phrases you said? So this one is going to get you, I mean, obviously that's in another language right there. French, je suis belle. But we can start scrolling down and wow, there's a lot in French at the top. So here is something that, she just got featured in Forbes, back to that whole like paying attention to somebody being featured. And if you show interest, like I said, not only is this woman who got featured maybe talking about financial planning and budgets, and it's okay to show interest and encouragement to your peers. The reason why is because we get a little bit nervous, like, oh, but I'm liking and commenting on somebody who that's my business. We forget a couple of things sometimes. I forget it too. That just seeing you interact with your peers, if I'm going to be speaking on stage and there's an entire track of LinkedIn speakers, I benefit by actually positioning myself up against other LinkedIn speakers. And the reason why is because if somebody wasn't meant to work with me, they needed that other person then. There's always going to be somebody that needs somebody in this network. It's actually the, what is it called? The soda machine principle, where one soda machine sitting by itself will do less business than multiple soda machines actually lined up together, and snack machines and similar competition. And the reason why is because we get, I get to choose yes, 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 yes. There's yeses. Whereas if you are one soda machine sitting by itself, one business owner, not interacting with your peers, not networking, you're just yes or no against you. That's the choices they have. Whereas you get to be a choice to multiple and a bigger audience when you actually interact with your peers. So don't be afraid to go out, like and comment on somebody who technically is your competition, somebody that would gain the same business, because we just don't all hear from the same voices. So
like he says, you can be one or two people. You can be the person that wants to just build a really big building or wants to tear other people's buildings down to get where you're going. And the world's a very big place. There's tons of business. We collaborate with our competition all the time. It confuses them, I'm sure. I send agents that try and apply here to competing brokerages, and I don't think they've ever seen that before. Some of the responses I've got, but it's actually helped us grow. I'm going to jump into another question.
Oh, I was going to say he said, sorry, technical issues. He can hear and follow through. So thank you, Martin. And he did say, and I can answer this one super quick. How often should you be posting? That is kind of controversial on LinkedIn, and I will have a strong opinion because I am, so here's Gary Vee saying 3 times a day. I say no, very strong no against that advice that he gives. And the reason why is because yes, Gary Vaynerchuk with a huge team can post 3 times a day and he will get traction and he will get visibility because he has a hot 4 million audience on LinkedIn. If we don't have a 4 million hot audience, max once every 24 to 48 hours. And the reason why is because LinkedIn will look at you as a spammy account to LinkedIn. If you are not getting likes and comments within that first post, you putting out another post is not all of a sudden going to trigger LinkedIn to go, oh my God, he's so amazing. You need to have a hot audience to keep getting visibility on every single post. So I say to people, let your post breathe. Give it time. Give it time to get a like and a comment. I sometimes start the likes and the comments. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. But I tell people, if it's like a dance floor, are you willing to dance on the dance floor of your own content when you put it out there? I mean, I have a party on my content. I'm like, yeah, I just posted. So enjoy your post and post once every 24 to 48 hours.
And start a conversation. I think that's a big part of it. It's not one-sided, right? There was Spencer McDonald, some questions. I have a real estate photography LinkedIn site and a real estate broker site. Really want to know how to grow this network and drive leads to me. And I'll let you kind of handle this. I think part of the conversation is you're going to try and attract them rather than drive them, right? In a different kind of mindset.
Yes. I mean, if we think about it, And I love I don't know if it's in either Carnegie Mellon or if it's like, Dale Carnegie. That's it. It's Dale. I always get the Carnegies all. I think it's the win friends and influence people, but it's this whole, maybe it's the 4 agreements, but it basically says give what you want to get. So if you are out there giving, you're asking people as a leader to show up for you, go show up for others. That's what I think of when I think about leadership, and the profile, and not the profile, but the leadership energy on LinkedIn does drive traffic back to your profile. I have clients, and let me just show you, if I can convince you at all. This one slide always convinces so many people, but it's down here. This is from 3 days of commenting, a total of 15 high quality comments. That's it. Drove traffic to check out their profile. So what I call high quality comments is this. If you can, I always have this in parentheses, leave an early comment. If I see anything early, and if I see even Gary Vaynerchuk, if I see him post something and I want to jump in that conversation, and he happens to have posted in the last 20 minutes, I'm going to make a quick comment. I'm going to make a thoughtful comment. And actually my last comment where I did that, it gained, I think, 150 likes and comments. So somebody who has a huge audience and you are an early commenter, you will be the top comment only if you then do the next thing, which is you have to leave a thoughtful, like your, not just 2 cents, but probably like 5 to 10 cents, where people literally have to click see more to see the rest of your comment. When they have to click see more to see the rest of your comment, you actually get visibility. Your profile, your title, who you are, your content gets more visibility. When people are showing interest in your comment, they're actually showing interest ultimately in your next post that you actually make on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's going to show it to those people that click see more on that comment.
Well, I don't think people realize the social platforms watch you. Like if you read, I think the 4 lines plus is probably similar to how Instagram, where if they're paused on the screen for an extra 3 seconds reading it, it knows that. It says, oh, okay, this is somewhat engaging. Now you're making them click and they're still reading it. It's like, well, this is very valuable because you're giving them something that they're willing to give their time to. So we want more of you, right? So you got to train the algorithms and, the audience as well to understand that you're giving value over and beyond, not just here's 2 lines, you click see more, and then it's a whole paragraph on how Uncle Jimmy is the best Bitcoin miner ever and give him $5,000, he'll be rich forever. Like the spam, right? You keep it contextual and keep it valuable. And we had one more question from the audience, and it was, how quickly would you say LinkedIn relationships start to feel like a real relationship? What challenges do you come across, or was it all plain sailing?
It's not plain sailing, but you can fast forward that with commenting. I've already shown that, like 30,000 ways from Sunday. But I think the next thing is when you show up in the direct messages and creating a real relationship, there's actually another psychological principle that I love leaning into. It's called spontaneous trait transfer. So spontaneous trait transfer, and what that looks like. And I feel like now I'm going to teach people how I trick people. I'm not tricking anybody, but it's the equivalent of Martin. I'm putting Martin in the hot seat because he's right here still, that visible to me, where he literally after this event, he maybe is trying to get your attention, Justin. You probably know each other, but pretend he needs to get your attention. I want to pitch Justin. So after this event, he says to you, wow, Judi was such a great presentation. I think that and compliments me and doesn't spend any time talking about himself. What he just said about me actually transfers back to him. Because our human brain has no time to figure out who anybody is and what Martin's like, that's what I was going to do.
Awesome. I like operators, right? You go out and do something you just learned, you got my respect all day long. I think, yeah, you're not gamifying people. You're not quantifying them and putting a dollar value on them. It's just the nature of how we operate, right? So that's fascinating. I've never thought of it like that.
And when somebody connects me, so say, for example, I get a referral. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I got a referral, that's a hot referral, that's a hot lead. And I think me and you kind of did this with each other, where Chelsea connected us. So actually, instead of spending time thinking, let's just jump right into, we kind of did, but also I think we both honored Chelsea.
Sure.
And that moment of honoring is so powerful. And I think people forget how that moment is actually more powerful to solidify the link, even though you acknowledge, yeah, Chelsea connected us. Yeah, Chelsea connected us. Yes, Chelsea Pites. I love it. So, but what we're literally saying when I turn around and say, oh my gosh, Chelsea's amazing. She actually is. She sent me foxes in the mail. I'm in her book, What to Post. Like, she's freaking amazing. I don't know how she does all that she does. Like, oh yeah, I'm blown away by Chelsea. Like, blown away by her.
There's your book right there.
Yes. I think I'm on page 72.
I forget which one I'm on. And it's funny, I never expected it, but she just pulled some stuff I was doing on Instagram. And it's funny because it's just a snippet of something that I do. But since she did that, I pour into that, and then I want to give back to her. We build a community of awesome people, get amazing guests like you on. And I mean, we're talking like we've dug maybe a foot deep into 100-foot deep trench. I know you're a specialist at LinkedIn and people are interested in it. Definitely, I'm going to direct them to you at the end of this episode so we can send them to your profile. I do want to ask you 3 kind of rapid fire questions before we wrap up, and just rifle just off the top of your head kind of what your thoughts are. So what is the greatest lesson you've learned up until now?
That I don't need permission.
Perfect.
That nobody needs permission. We do have the intuition, the experience, and the knowledge to make decisions and not need permission. And I think permission was the biggest thing that kind of held me back along the way from going out on my own. I didn't realize it, but I thought, oh, I need the camaraderie. I need the people in the office. I think I just needed people's permission. And once I let that go, the camaraderie is there. The Chelsea Pites of the world, the colleagues, the Justins, the Judis, we're here, but none of us are giving each other permission. We're just literally enjoying interacting, networking, and working with each other. And that just releases a huge weight off your shoulders.
I think I always like to say everybody's beautifully and wonderfully made in their own right. We're all crazy to a certain degree. We all have our own good and bad sides and things, struggles. But at the end of the day, once you realize that you don't have to prove it to anybody else, that's when you really, really feel free. I'll let Jacqueline sneak in a question. Do you have specific suggestions where to make things like your LinkedIn header? Do you use Canva or something creative? Cloud apps? Canva is probably an easy one.
I'm the most boring person. I use PowerPoint to make all of my creatives.
You're awesome. That's so funny. Well, PowerPoint or Canva is a pretty easy one for most people.
Yes, Canva, the one, unless Canva's updated it, but Canva on LinkedIn has gotten the sizing wrong.
Oh,
so I know. So if it literally says this is a LinkedIn thing, check the sizing, check the pixels.
That's wild. So then the other 2 questions. One is, what are you learning now? Like, you have this strong base in LinkedIn. You got to be curious about something you see coming down the highway. What are you putting your energy into from a learning perspective?
Let me look around my desk. What am I learning? I think the biggest thing I'm learning, and to be blunt, I am learning probably more about the balance of running my own business and taking care of myself. Just to be blunt, I saw the 75 hard out there. Have you ever heard of that? It definitely got traction out there.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a bit of a rebel. I didn't agree because I was like, I don't think I can do the 75 hard, and that doesn't fit my personality. So I created the 75 love for myself. And it has some of the same things on the list, but instead I actually have an action each day that I have to do something where I thank somebody, or I have to write them a recommendation. I have to do something really kind for somebody I know. And that's part of my 75 love. The other part, okay, I'm looking at my list. I have to drink water. It has some of the same things. I have to do an exercise outside, which is walk my dog. I have to walk indoors, a thank you action. And I do think it's really powerful to read 10 pages per day. So I just adjusted the 75 hard because I was like, I don't like the idea like, oh, I have to be on a diet. That one to me, I was like, I can replace that with something else. So
yeah, and it's about making your own kind of world. This last one is probably one of my favorite questions. It's, how has failure shaped your life?
That I survived on the other side of failure. I thrived on the other side of failure. I thought it was failure to, especially back in the first crisis, I thought it was failure to like have to kind of be forced to take a leave of absence or whatever they called it, a furlough or whatever you call that at the time. I thought that was failure. I was like, I probably shed way too many tears over that. And then now it's all like literally that whole thing where it's like, oh, that was actually a blessing. That literally changed my life at that exact moment and allowed me to step into more of really who I actually am. And I love that I got so entrenched in understanding how to run a business, how to work for Fortune 500 companies. I learned so much about how that system and how all of that operates. I've got 18 plus years working with corporations and Fortune 500 companies. So that it's powerful knowledge that first 10 years set me up for, but I don't know if I would have gotten kicked out of the nest or if I just would have stayed climbing a ladder and climbing a title ladder inside a corporation.
Yeah, you get stuck in fear, right? The reason I asked that question is to end the episode. There's no such thing as a failure, truthfully, right? Every time I ask the question, every one of my guests, they get excited. There's that instant where you're like, oh, like you think about something because the word failure is a negative word. But then as you start thinking about it, you're like, it actually put me in the biggest position to succeed. So when things seem like they're the worst thing that ever happened to you, in perspective and hindsight in your book and in your story, they are going to be a blip on the radar that you will laugh about. So use it as inspiration to get better. So I definitely want to thank you. I know you really, really kind of dug in for the audience today too. If they want to reach out to you, where's the best place for them to find you?
If you start on my website, judifox.com, at the very top or at the bottom are all my socials. So you can just click across and be like, I want to follow her everywhere. But also just send me a direct message. I am a normal person that has normal conversations. I leave voice messages. I think, Justin, you've probably gotten a voice message. And Justin does video. He's like, we're real people in the DMs. Like, it's really me. There is nobody else in here. So
I was walking in my side yard. You sent me a voice message and that actually caught my attention. And then I sent you a video walking through my side yard. I was doing like landscaping or something like that. And we connected. So we now had this conversation. So appreciate it. I'll definitely be watching your story and we'll have you back on in the future to explain that maybe Canva changed their formatting and
Canva. I love them. There's no bad blood. Just get up to date on your LinkedIn dimensions.
It's important. Everybody get on that platform. Thanks again, Judi.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.